Hey everybody, I'm Cinnamon Cooney, your art Sherpa, and today, for the 13 days of Halloween live streaming, we're going to be doing The Invisible Man. This is a piece I personally am super excited about doing because I love the surreal nature of it and the fact that it feels very current and relevant to our situation. I think this is a story that has a lot of modern insight. On the mic today is my husband John.
Hi guys.
He's going to be tracking me with cameras and reading your questions and making sure that I don't forget some essential element of the class, like adding a sandworm explosion coming out of the dune. So, very important role that he plays.
Don't forget to paint his face in.
So today I wanted to talk a lot about blending because there's a very nice soft gradient on this background. And for you at home, what you would want to do is I want you to look into your brush bucket, your little collection of brush bucket, and find some soft, dry brushes that you're going to put to the side. I'm going to be using these types of brushes. This is a really fantastic goat mop. And then these are actually in one of my brush sets called the Ultimate Varnish Brush, and it is the Ultimate Varnish Brush, but it's also an Ultimate Blending Brush as well. So these are the ones I'm going to be demoing, but you just grab, they can be brights, they can be rounds. You just want a soft, clean, dry brush, put a couple aside, so we can practice this technique because I think it's going to benefit you a lot. All right. So I have our little reference image here. Let's put him aside where I can see that in some sort of relatively easy way and talk about the materials, all of which are listed in the description below. I'm going to open this up. This is an Ampersand gesso board. I really like these. What?
What makes these different than say like a canvas
Oh,
board?
they're just good and awesome and smooth and fantastic.
Now, I know that they're definitely smoother and they reflect more light, right?
They do. They do. They reflect more light. They're rigid. They won't bow on you. They're high quality. They're very archival. They're easy to frame. This is a really good example of the top type of product that we have available to us in the art materials world. And it's a good thing to know that's out there just in case you ever do a project where the outcome is super important. Maybe it's a gift. Maybe it's something very important you're painting. Know this is something that you have access to. I'm going to put out some white paint because that's one of our colors. We're only using 3 colors today. And that's because I want to see if I can do this whole piece with 3 colors. Plus, that's fun for you guys because you don't have the expense, that added burden of having to put a lot of colors out on your palette. And it's good to know that you can get a lot of result out of just a few colors.
While you're putting those out, let me
Yeah.
ask you a quick question. Is this still a monochrome if it has a one color? What does that mean? How
It,
does that
it
work?
has monochromatic elements, but really to be a monochromatic painting, it's got to have just a couple colors. Is everything okay? You came running over here all scampery. Oh, you're a justy. He's a justy. Sometimes you gotta justy. Now, I do have some acrylic glazing liquid gloss. I like to keep this around. What this does is, and this is only the golden artist colors. This is not across all brands. Just this bottle, this kind in gloss or semi or matte is all fine. But you want the golden artist colors acrylic glazing liquid because it slows down the drying time of your paint, but it also is a glaze, which means with a traditional retarder, when you get those recommended, they actually have very narrow parameters they work. This has nice broad parameters and is very beginner friendly, and it's a product I personally really like. I'm going to grab a nice big wide brush. This is a number 30 Ruby Satin, and I'm going to load it up, flipping with the white paint. I know I say that a lot, but what I'm doing really when I come into the paint pot and I pull it out and I flip and I pull it out and I flip is I'm pulling a lot of paint into the belly of the brush. Now I'm going to come over here to the blue and I'm going to barely put on any. Doesn't take a lot of phthalo blue to stain the paint. And I'm going to come in the middle right here. Just if this is the center line mark and the center line mark kind of above the center horizontal to this space. And I'm going to just begin to brush my lighter color as you do. And I want it nice and thick and wet on there. Here I'm going to come into my water. I'm going to dip just the edge of the bristles into my water. So I'm getting 1 to 2 drops onto the brush to improve flow. And I'm back in here and making sure this is fairly wet, especially here at the edge. Acrylic paint blends quite well when it's wet. It starts to struggle to blend as it dries. So I'm going to come right around here. See how I'm doing for this transition? And now I have this very kind of difficult, hard-edged transition between this value and this value. I'm going to put this brush down and grab one of my clean brushes, and I'm going to just very softly go around, going around, going around, softening. See how that just softens that beautifully? Almost like a little magic trick there. And this works quite nicely until the brush is a little too dirty to work or the paint is dry. See how we did? Got a
Yeah.
nice little beautiful ombre there. I'm going to wipe this off on my towel to sort of clean it. You can even use a wet wipe, just whatever you want to use to get the paint off but not wet the brush. And that's the other reason I like to dipping in the water. The other reason I like to have a bunch of them clean and dry to the side is so that as I'm going, right, I always have a brush that's ready to do the blending. That's all that's happening here is I'm just trying to make sure that there's always a brush that's ready to do that blending. Now, where this becomes hard with acrylic is if your conditions are quite dry, and if, because of that, the paint dries on you faster than you can get the blend in there. All right, because that'll happen. Sometimes your paint's just drying practically right on the canvas, and you will struggle. I'm going to switch here just to make it easier on myself to get that soft transition. And that's what we're trying to do, is get these soft transitions from one value to the next. I need to soften that, so I'm going to come back into my white. I'm right here. And just make sure that that doesn't have a nice hard edge that I'm not going to want to deal with. That's what I'm trying to avoid, is those hard edges. And that's why a lot of times in videos demoing this technique, you'll almost see it time lapse. It's because it takes a lot of effort to get these soft gradated transitions in your acrylic paint. This is about where these brushes are at right now. Now, immediately after a technique like this, I would definitely want to go wash these out thoroughly to make sure that that dry paint is not ruining my brush. And I've shown how to get blends with like sponges and other processes. So there's not one way to get here. I might actually have to make like a, you know, the 75 ways to blend acrylic paint video at some point. Because there's a lot of ways to get it done. All right, I'm going to just try to get this around. Now, where I start to have problems with it, where it just doesn't want to blend, this is where my glazing liquid can become my friend. Watch this. So I'm going to load this up. You can see it's now reactivating that paint on my brush. I'll wipe off that extra. Watch this. It will help me get that softer transition where the brush doesn't want to necessarily give it to me. Picking up another one, coming back into the glaze, and look, I'm getting a soft area. If I have a hard area, I'm back, more glaze. Bring it in here. You can get a clean goat if you need to. Get a clean goat.
You just keep grabbing different brushes.
I do, because that's why I'm like, put several aside if you're going to do this method.
Stuff.
Well, what I'm having to do, a lot of people recommend goat, and the reason that I don't is that I paint with acrylic a lot. And so I know the goat is going to be a little bit soft for this technique. And there'll be a lot more shedding off. So anywhere that you lose your transition, you come back, you get your glaze. See? Put it back. Fight for it. Fight for it. Like you haven't fought for anything in your life. But you really can. Right? you can really fight for this in your painting. And it's going to be about working this paint wet into wet. I just wanted to demo this because that time lapsing of this technique is really unfair because it doesn't really let anyone know the trouble and difficulty between them and the result, if that makes sense. Does that make
Oh
sense,
yeah,
John?
a lot of people struggle with this blending, and so this is a really good review for folks to, for you to be able to just go over all of these sort of, you know, different problems that you can have along the way.
You really can have a lot of problems with it. And again,
Now, see, see, I ran into the most problem putting that blended background in
yeah,
on every one of my things I've
everybody
tried.
has the
So
most trouble.
you just grabbed, like, there was some blue that got in there. You just weren't even worried about it. You just sort of worked it in.
While it's wet, I still have a minute, right? While it's wet, I'm still having a minute. As soon as it's dry, and you can see like right here at this edge, nearly impossible to blend. Nearly impossible to blend with acrylic once it's dry.
So this is
Then you're down to glazing and dry brushing and other methods to get the blend. But if you're talking a wet into wet blend, in reality, without a beautifully transitioned fade that really covers about 45 minutes of blending work, y'all know what I'm talking about.
it's got to be one of those things you got to get good at doing.
Well, and also, I just want you to understand, I want you guys to see in this real time, right, what's actually involved. No fades, no transitions, none of that. My studio right now is very dry, like very, very, very dry. Worst possible conditions for a blended background. Could not be harder. I'm washing my brushes out, and I'm going to get them as dry as I can into my towel. So it's just the worst possible conditions for a blended background that I could possibly be in. You know, I can mist. That's also going to help me. I'm going to show you some misting. But I just want us to get through this. I want you to see what it's like. What are you up against, really, as a new painter? And again, it doesn't have to be this shape brushes, though I do like the shape, right? And you can get these little kind of goatee mops different places. I definitely would want my soap to get the paint out of this. To see it's pretty stained.
Need to get some of that Sherpa soap on
You
it.
need to get some of that Sherpa soap. Now here's another trick. I'm going to take this water and I'm going to wet this surface a small amount, right? And that even will come, look at this. That little bit that had not quite bound yet, look what I can do. Wipe off on the towel. Wipe it off on the towel. Look at us go. What are we doing? We're blending, aren't we? Wipe it off on the towel. And then you can even do the little circular motion where you're just softly blending.
That just was like a magic trick there. It just was whoosh.
Yeah, but you wouldn't know it unless you knew it, would you? Acrylic is not water soluble once it's dry. That only works at this weird, the goat left a bunch of hairs. I'm just getting them off. It only works, which is why I like these over the goat. Just for that reason. But once that goat is broken in, it'll be fine. Not an actual goat. These are vegan too. See, I'm just going to keep cleaning this brush off. See how I'm just cleaning the brush off?
Scrub, yeah.
And this is how that's done with acrylic. So you know how I talk about all the time that, you know, every medium has its ups, its downs, its different positives and negatives. We're looking at why some people really prefer that oil experience because this work is much easier. But we just rock the dry brush, so you just find the medium that works for you the best. Look how we've smoothed that out.
Yeah.
And that's going to be really fantastic. Now I have to continue to darken around that outer edge. And I'm going to continue, I'm going to actually show several of these so that we can like have the definitive, like, this is what we're really up against when we're blending acrylic.
So I would just stop there. You're going to go more.
Well, I have to paint all the canvas.
Oh, well, that's true.
It's super important to paint the whole canvas. I'm going to miss this lower part since I'm having such a dry day.
See, I would have been
This is a micro mister, and they have them in art stores, but really a bunch of different places have them. I've seen them at like Sally's Beauty and different places, and it's just that they don't do big dollops of water. All right, so let's work just this right here. All right, guys, let's just this. Bringing the blue here, getting that color. Let's bring our brush back. This one I've kind of wiped off. I'll get my towel up. Let's go. Blendy, 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 blendy. Blendy, 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 blendy.
See, that's just, it's a little like a roller coaster for me because I would be so afraid.
This would be very stressful, right?
Yeah, but it's not as bad when I see you do it.
If your expectations are managed and you know, oh, this is a challenge. I've got to scrub my brush. I have to work this for a minute. It could take me a second. If your expectations are managed, get that hair off there that the goat left.
No.
Then you're going to have a great time. If your expectations are not managed, you might accidentally think that you aren't good at blending.
Now, can I give everyone permission to waste a little paint trying this a couple times?
Please waste a little paint trying this a couple times.
Because I think that oftentimes artists don't accept that loss of materials to learn how an effect will come out.
This is a technique. This whole class is like worth its weight in gold just for seeing this technique demo. This is a technique that practice is required.
Yeah.
Okay? Time, patience, determination, and practice is required to make this work. You guys have sent me just tons and tons of examples of this, saying, hey, this was real challenging for me. What happened? So to me, it's just super important for me to let you know what happens in these blended ombres. A little bit here. Notice my best result is not from my fancy dancy, which I still love this product and I would never recommend it if I didn't, but it's from the mist in the water and just the consistent work. That's my best result.
And that cool little brush technique did pretty awesome.
Yeah, and that cool little brush technique, right? The cool little brush technique doesn't hurt us very much, does it?
No, it's just like, there's a blend, man.
It doesn't hurt us. We're not sorry we did it. You know, let's get our mister. This is the Soho. I think these are like 97 cents at Jerry's. But again, I've seen them a ton of places. And you got to be careful with the mister because it can make little watermarks into your work, which is why you got to be a little bit precious about the kind that you get and how much you do it. Because you really got to work it. And then you've got to wipe off, and just keep going until you get it.
A little bit of Mr. Miyagi action.
It's a lot of Mr. Miyagi action. And again, there's a lot of videos demoing this, but what I'm noticing out there is that there's a subtle kind of, and John can explain this because he does editing, there's the use of a transition filter to shorten the length of the overall video, which I totally respect. You've got to do that. But it might be confusing to you if you're new and you didn't recognize, oh, well, there was a transition there.
Yeah, and what I can say is that we try to do the show live and be as forward and honest in how difficult and what techniques we're using. And through editing, it's very easy to collapse the time that it takes to do certain techniques and really to hide mistakes. Well,
it wouldn't even be mistakes. It just might be like, it's just really time intensive.
Or like challenges that aren't, that unless you see the process live, don't present themselves, you know. So I'm not saying that live is the only way to see it. I'm just saying, no.
It's
collapsed time lapse.
It's just nobody needs to watch like 45 minutes of a blend normally.
Yeah, no way. But it's like, how many times it's like.
Now I'm gonna dry this and do the next layer where it's really gonna be amazing.
I could say it's like a couple more times though.
Right? Yeah, you can.
I could.
Okay, I'm gonna dry this and I'm gonna get you the next layer, and that's where this whole thing will come together. So you ready? We're gonna dry it. Because this is about acrylic. This is not how you get here in oil. And oil would be done. We'd be on our way. It's like doing skies with watercolor. You're like, boom, boom, boom. Done.
Okay. So, all right. I want to make sure that everything is turned on and working. Okay. So, thank you guys. making sure that all my adjustments are here. If you're using a hair dryer or anything like that over there, make sure you're using on the lowest heat setting. That way you're not going to induce any color shift or shrinkage or cracking or anything like that. And heat can really do that on your budget and student paints. Not so much on your pro paints, but definitely on those student paints, you can see that stuff happening, so be careful there. Um, Thank you guys for coming and hanging out. I look over. It's always so wonderful to see so many of you here, especially like in the middle of the day on a Wednesday. So big love. Thank you for coming.
Yes, thank you everyone for coming, and thank you for being brave and looking at this. Now I'm going to dry these. You go run and wash your brushes, and you're going to want to dry them out on your towel really well right at this point. You can probably pause me if you're on replay.
Hmm.
I give you permission to pause me.
Pause. I can pause you maybe.
So you can see why I feel like over these goat blenders in acrylic that this is like my favorite. Even though it's called Ultimate Varnish, I think it's an ultimate a lot of stuff brush. It does some pretty cool things and doesn't shed out on my canvas, which is a super annoying effect of painting. So I'm going to load up in my white again. Loading. I'm doing the flip. It's okay that I'm getting a little of the blue in here. I don't mind. Right? I would not mind on that at all. I'm going to make sure that I'm back to, like I did the soft mist, so I'm not losing. I'm going to really exaggerate this space that I've got going here. I'll add a smidge of the blue to my color, just to make sure that I'm getting that really worked right there. So now, even if I have more student paint, which many of you may have, I now have enough coverage to be getting that good blend.
Now, what
I am working more blue into it.
can I? I want to explain some of what you see the Sherpa doing there. Is she's working paint into the canvas, and because we're only shooting in 1080p and not 4K, what you can't see on the screen is that the can that the blending there is just how the layers below don't necessarily uh, they'll show through a little bit. And so it's necessary for her to go back and layer the paint on so you get a nice even thick coat of blended paint.
Yeah.
And so and that's one of those things. If you see something in person, it's so different.
Well, I'm going to let John take a very up close little tour around the canvas once we're all done.
Yeah, and I'll try to pull
so
up on that.
You guys see that this is much different than whenever we paint together, we share things together in the Facebook of TheArtSherpa official or any of the places. I always like to see how is your experience? What's your result? Because for me, my goal is your result, not my result. So it's good that I have a good result too, but
and that's what I'm just pulling up here to show.
It's just super important to me that you guys get a good result on certain techniques and certain effects. All right. We ready?
Yep.
Let me stand back and don't want to miss too close because, again, I don't want to oversaturate. Ah, there we go. Look how soft. How soft, how soft, how soft. Like little clouds of air and time. And the reason I don't do the whole keyhole is there's just no way for me to work fast enough. So another strategy you see me employing here is me making sure that I have the time required to get the blend I'm looking to get. Because if I don't give myself enough time, what happens to me? I lose my beautiful transition. I get those hard edges, which I'm trying here to avoid. And now I have a nice soft, soft, soft. Wiping, wiping, wiping on my towel. Blending, blending, wiping, wiping. Blending, blending, wiping, wiping. I also want you to see how often I'm wiping off paint.
Now, would it be fair to say that what we're ultimately seeing here is layers of blended paint?
Yes.
Okay. And
Yeah, that
that's
was
how you
another
get
thing that I think wasn't necessarily translating for people when they're asking me questions because they'd send me
it's
screen caps or say, this happened, but I got this. And it's like, well, I know it looks a little bit like that happened, but what actually happened is this. And I've been promising for about 2.5 months now to demo this in real time.
so this is not just one contiguous even
No.
blend. This is layers of blends that form the final look that make what we want.
Exactly. And it's important. And I'm going to wipe off this brush now and even start that right here. Look.
And that explains why you don't just do this in one shot.
Exactly. And why, it could be very time consuming. It's completely doable. It's a technique everybody can do. For sure, for sure, for sure, for sure, for sure. You just have to have a little more information, then you'll be brilliant at it.
Okay, so making sure that the expectations are so we should expect to take lots of time and do lots of layers.
Mm-hmm.
And if we take the time to do lots of layers and lots of time, then we're going to have a high chance of
Right.
success.
And expect to need to practice it. It takes
Okay.
a minute, right? Like, so I have a little bit too much dark here. And so what I will do is I'll grab my light color, my light, light, light. I'm going to get a little water into it. Make sure it's blending. And then I'm going to come right here. Look, I'm going to soften it. Still pulling out goat hair. See how we're doing?
Yeah.
And you can even come back into your paint. Here's a fun little trick too. So I'm going to get some white. And then I'm going to, if I was just doing this on myself and I wasn't live and I wasn't feeling that pressure of, the video time that one has to have when doing a video online. Back, 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 mist. Here I come. Look at me go. Holing out that light center now. And the other thing is like from a distance, if you've ever backed up from your artwork and been like, wow, it looks really good from about 6 feet away. That's another thing effect that we're seeing, you know. So it's all about understanding where expectations are realistic and where they're not, about the amount of time and work and effort that might actually exist in a technique being a very important thing to understand. Wipe off my brush here. I'm even switch brushes again. There we go. Just soften, soften, soften. Softening, softening. Right here. Just softening it. My pressure, you'll notice I'm not pressing hard into the canvas, am I?
Now Meg was saying she uses a makeup blender as a brush sometimes. That
That is
works really well for her.
not a bad plan, Meg.
Nikki was
Actually,
like, "Me too." There's lots of Sherpettes admitting to the.
listen, here's the deal with this. Like, I love, love, love my brushes, but I also happen to know that the makeup industry has about a bazillion more dollars to spend in engineering and materials. They're much more competitive in the material market for the products that actually make brushes. It's almost not fair. It's like David and Goliath out there. So I'm taking the one with the dark blue down and I'm coming back with the one that had the light color on it. Look at this. Look at that softness now. So now, oh my gosh, just beautifully blended, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we're going for. We're just going for a nice, beautiful blend with soft edges that are not hard, that we're not looking at. I've done this with sponges, guys. There's a lot of ways to get here. And then essentially, what you're always trying to do is get a particular result.
Now I think this really helped a lot of people understand. This was, and there's lots of echoes. Lena was just saying she feels so much better now knowing that this technique takes this long.
Yeah, it takes a long time.
So it's good to reinforce that this is not a one-shot technique.
Mm-mm.
You need many layers that are blended together to make that layered blended keyhole effect in this technique. If you're able to master that one shot, wow, you could go for it. But that's
Make a video, share with all of us.
But even so, this you couldn't do this one shot. This creates that
In the
layered
nature of
effect.
acrylics, right? Like maybe with a golden open, right? You're just
Yeah.
talking about like how can you get from one spot to another and about the amount of time and effort required and the fact that it's dry brushes,
But
you
this
know.
is really good for you to be predictably, as a beginner, able to get this result.
Yeah. And you're going to want to.
Yeah, I do. I I did not like having the background
And I'm going to test this technique on John to
process.
see how like how well we can get him through this
Yeah, I
process.
I struggled
I
with
have
I.
made a mess on my palette, y'all.
No, that's good. I
I'm
mean, maybe
like
that's why I'm so
slopped
enthusiastic.
water everywhere. Oh, just crazy. All right, so my background's darker because I wanted more of a deep blue. I wanted more of a color. You know me, that's how I am. But now you guys see how that blend has happened. Oh, you gonna give me new water? Give me new water. Oh, I love that you give me new water. New paper, new water. Okay, I'm gonna drink my coffee. We have to let this dry anyways because I'm gonna sketch this in. The rest of this actually goes in pretty well. It's just traditional kind of like how we've been painting. But these blended techniques, they're worth practicing. I'm going to try to put together a compilation of these for you guys so that you can see like some of the things, some of the don'ts, some of the do's, some of the challenges, where to manage your expectation, where to know products are helpful, where to know that they're harmful. Because I think there's just a bunch of stuff that I wish I could go back in time and tell my baby artist all about. Be like, oh no, sweetie, it's like this. Don't freak out. Because all of this knowledge came from some point freaking out in a painting, just like you guys are freaking out in your painting. That's okay. I just spilled everything off. So I'm gonna put my phthalo blue back out. You're gonna look at me while I do this. I'm gonna put my phthalo blue back out, and then I'm gonna put my black out and my white out. And then if we could take a couple questions from you guys, and then I'm gonna sketch this little puppy in. So what's gonna happen is I'm gonna dry the canvas,
Yeah.
sketch in. If you guys have a question, put it in all caps. John will scan for some questions, and then after I'm done sketching in, you guys have a traceable if you don't draw, so don't panic. John will ask me a couple questions, and I will reset my mental space for the next layer of the painting.
Okay. So yes. So push the button. Okay. So I caught that. Let's see here. What was it? Debbie. I will ask about the glazing liquid. Have her show that up there. And I saw a couple other ones, so I'll catch those as I can on this. So, but well, yeah. Thank you guys. Um, Big art hugs for coming and hanging out with us today. I know that on a Wednesday afternoon that it's really amazing to have this group of people to come together and sort of paint and create together. And I feel really special to be part of a big group of people who are doing that together. So thank you guys for coming and hanging out. Um, really, really appreciate it. And look, she got done
Wesley
just
back.
in time. Just in time for me not to have to come up with any creativeness things to say. So,
All right, I'm going to find the brightest spot in my canvas, and that's where I'm going to actually focus the top of the suit, the empty space, which is the invisible man's head. And I'm going to bring this down into a little point to talk about the shirt collar, because one loves a shirt collar. Well, I do anyways. My jam. I'm using kids chalk, like what you'd use on a chalkboard for children.
okay, so I'm gonna turn my volume up just a touch. I was wanted to make sure I was not too loud from earlier.
Oh,
But
yeah?
yeah, so there was a good question. Let me scroll back up to it.
All right.
Oh, can you show the glazing liquid that you were using?
Yep. All right. So this is the exact one. Golden Artist Colors. Sometimes it's referred to as GAC, GAC. That's now all of a sudden you guys got GAC 100, 200, 800. Golden Artist Colors. All right, so Golden Artist Colors, and this is acrylic glazing liquid gloss. It's an acrylic medium used to extend the working time of paints. Whenever they say extend working time, retard drying time, what they're talking about is just slow down how fast acrylic dries on you. But where this is awesome is that it's a glaze, which means I can put a teeny tiny amount of pigment, brush it on in a clear glaze, and the paint will dry. If you do this with a regular retarder, it will not dry and it will ruin your painting. And so what I found is that some of my favorite retarders are not really beginner friendly because of that problem. Whereas this is very beginner friendly. I even have bought a bunch of bottles of these for my mom, and now she loves them. They're really fantastic. I highly recommend the product.
Last question before you
Not
jump on.
sponsored, by the
Was
way. Just a very strong opinion that I have.
was that white you put out the Artist Loft Level 3 white?
Yeah, so this
And
is my Artist Loft Level 3 white.
and how do you like that?
I'm liking the Artist Loft Level 3. Michael's is one of my close art resources. Other than that, I have to go downtown to Texas Art Supply, which I love. It's a dream. If you live in Houston, you should go buy. And also Art Supply in Maine, which I love, is a dream. You should go buy. But it's far. It's like a 40-minute drive for me. So I tend to go to Michael's. And in Michael's, I used to have just really golden. And then if things were real bad, I would get Liquitex Heavy Body, but I don't really enjoy that brand as much.
I'm pretty sure I can say that we have bought more Artist Loft paint than anyone else from our local Michaels.
Yeah, but I discovered this and I was like, you know what? This is not bad, right? I think Golden is the supreme in paint. I think Holbein, I think Matisse, I think there's a top, but I'm really happy with this product, so I'm buying it.
Yeah.
It's worked for me, and it's so far been super reliable. If that changes, I'll let you know, because it can with paint. But right now, I'm a happy camper. Also, not sponsored. Though they do sell my brushes now on their website, so
Which we
disclosure.
We like that.
We do like it. We do like that they do, and I, probably wouldn't say like something terrible or mean, but I don't really do that anyways. So I got my little collar here. I've got my nice little man's shoulders coming out, right? We got to have our nice little man's shoulders. We've got a little seam that happens down in our suit. And we like our little seams. And then there's a sleeve. I like to pop up, and it can kind of come off the canvas or be on the canvas depending on, how you want to shake out your man's suit. There we go. Shaking it out. I've got a tie that I'm quite fond of here. And I think this is an area that you could play. Like, you could do like a ghost tie. You could do all kinds of things. If you were doing this just for the holidays. I sort of like the surreal nature of this piece. I'm going to bring the lapel over and down. And then I'm going to bring this lapel in to the first lapel. I guess my butt needs to be here then. Because wherever they join up is where the button tends to be. John is very into men's suits, so he knows all this stuff.
I was just actually mentally examining how awesome this suit selection was for this. Because as far as men's fashion go, this suit was representative of the very first business suits and is still considered a timeless design, which is a narrow lapelled gentleman's jacket that has generally 2 or 3 buttons, and on this one you can't see that, so it sort of leaves it open. You see the upper pocket, which sometimes is horizontal, but in this case is vertical, and the slit on the lapel. So these are all relatively modern constructs of men's suits, but make it timeless, especially with the derby.
Yeah, I'm real excited about the derby. Just super excited. I'm coming in and doing that inner little... It's like this weird, goofy grin when I'm doing a derby. I get this little goofy grin in. And inside the bottom goofy grin is the opening, and then I've got to bring my hat up, and then I like to round it over. John has a lot of hat opinions, so get ready, because he has them.
Now, here's the thing. I am not an expert in men's fashion or hats. I just am an enthusiastic wearer of it.
He talks like he's an expert.
Well, you learn some stuff.
He has so many clothing opinions.
You get opinions and learn stuff along the way. It doesn't mean you're right. It just means you're
He has a hat shop in San Francisco he shops at. For years now. I think we're on 10 years.
I have bought many hats.
Don't you have a hat guy there?
There's a hatter that knows me.
Sorry, I find that very enjoyable and funny. So I'm just trying to get my basic shapes in, and that's generally how I sketch stuff in. And I'm pretty comfortable. I'll do this often in paint on my canvas, just because I go, why not?
Yes, they were saying, is this a bowler? And yes, I think that this could disqualify as a bowler as well. There's a if I think they're all technically a type of brimmed hat, um, but yeah.
I know I've got my little, I'll probably just paint it all in, but I'm just trying to figure out my placement as of right now. Make sure I've got good placement, good brim shape, because I'll paint it all in with a dark color and then have to rebuild this in the construction of the hat.
Hmm.
So once this is in, I've got to just think about this for a second. All right. So I've sketched it, which means I'll take a couple questions and then I'll paint this sucker in. Questions.
Questions? Okay.
Anyone. And that's how I sketch it in. Sometimes people go like, I don't believe you really sketch things in. I'm like, I do.
Oh, are you using the same shades of color as in your illustration?
This isn't my illustration. This is an image that I licensed.
But you're using the color palette, or are you just sort of adapting that?
No, I would say I think this is probably like a cerulean and a Payne's gray and some weird colors that I don't use. And so I always try to make projects work with the colors that I consistently use from lesson to lesson, so you don't feel like you've always got to run out and buy a whole bunch of new paint. But I
Gotcha.
highly recommend getting any of these colors. They're
Hmm.
really cool. But no,
Hmm.
it's totally different color.
And we will.
That's a strategy that as an artist you can employ. If you have to buy new colors every time you do a project,
Hmm.
it can get really pricey. I'm not saying don't do it. I'm never a good person to bring if you're on a budget to the art store because I'll tell you to buy all the paint. I'm buying all the paint. So I do it too. Like I have a lot of the colors, but I recognize the students that you guys probably would prefer that we consistently use colors again and again and again so you guys can enjoy projects but not have to run out every time and get new paint. But use whatever blue, black, or white you have. Just whatever blue, black, or white you have, just use that and follow the value sets and you'll be fine in the project. Does that
Gotcha.
make sense?
Yeah, totally.
All right, I'm going to grab my number 6 bright, like you do. And I'm going to come here. I'm going to put out a little of my glazing medium because, again, like I said, it's a drying day in my studio. And so I'm going to go ahead and even load a little of it into my brush. If you're not having a drying day, that wouldn't be as big of a deal. I'm going to come over and get a little black. And I'm going to come into the base of my collar here and just shade in that dark gray value that you would have in this empty suit. So I guess we're saying that our invisible man doesn't block light rays.
Hmm.
He's making a shadow, and there's shadows from the shirt into the shirt where you'd expect them, and there's clearly not a body.
That makes sense.
So things we're saying with our art, we maybe intentionally said, or maybe you're not intentionally saying. Now I'm going to add some more white into my brush, and I'm going to thoroughly mix it through. I'm going to come here, and I'm going to add the next value up as I layer this in. I'm going to take that white out kind of to the corner here. And I'll show you a cool trick. I can still come along here just like I did on the background and shade using another dry little brush. If you ever need to do that, that's a thing you can do. It works small as well as big, is all I'm saying to you. This is a Monza number 6 short round. The Monzas are a faux mongoose hair. There's no actual mongoose used in the making of these brushes, entirely synthetic. I keep adding white. And what's nice about them is they have a very similar texture to mongoose without actually being a dead mongoose.
Now that is a 9 by
Happy for
12.
you and the mongoose.
Now that is a 9 by 12 you're working on there, yeah?
This is a 9 by 12. You could do this on any size canvas. You could make this a mural. I'm going to add another layer of white in here. Right back here. And I'll let that rest for a second because I want to have a final pop of bright white right here at the back collar where we get some value and some shading. See, we're getting that going. I'm going to rinse my brush off. I'm going to load a little of my white into it and come back with my glaze. And blend this value somewhat with this glaze. See how we're done?
Yeah.
I'm just going to blend that. Just enjoy my soft transitions this whole piece. Look black. Come back in here. I'm going to do the outer part of the collar now. I'm going to get just a slight gray going, just darker than white. And paint that part of my collar in. And you can use your brush directionality to really talk about that. Glaze so it's not drying on me so fast. If you're not having any difficulty with your paint drying, that's a step you just don't have to worry about. That's all that means for you in your project is, oh, look, there's a step I don't even have to consider. Because I'm all good in that area. Now this side was more in shadow, so we'll definitely have to represent that. Men's fashion is very different to paint than women's fashion. And the reason for that is that these lines are much more structured. You can do a lot of sort of loose brush stroke and playfulness when you're painting women's fashion, but it can be much more rigid when you're painting men's fashion. Because their garments are very structured. I'm going to go ahead and add a little more gray to that. And I'll come under here and just do the basis of that white shirt there. There we go. Just playing with those lines and enjoying them. Now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to get a black, but it's going to be kind of like a light gray. I mean, not light gray, dark gray, but lighter than black. And I'm going to come right here. And this is one of the ways that I'm going to help my suit stand out from its dark background. Is just play with these value sets. And maybe on the side where it's over here, come up here. See how fun this is? And then it's sort of fun, I think, the little pops of blue peeking through. I'm adding a little blue into my mix. Do some cool things. You can see I'm just trimming up this line and trimming these lines down as well. And now I'm going to fill those in. But I do pay attention to the direction that my brush stroke is flowing, which basically means that I'm aware I'm just going to pull this down. I'm interestingly enough probably going to be loose at the edge here and unfinish that stroke in the canvas instead of taking it cleanly off. If you saw my groomsmen, and I just posted him up on Facebook, I did a similar thing with the leg and I really liked it.
Now, there's a couple of really good
I'm
questions
go
here.
Blue and black right here.
Now, we're actually technically working on a surface today.
Yes.
which is not a canvas. We just sort of ubiquitously oftentimes call the thing we're painting on a canvas.
Yes.
Um, but they were asking, on your surfaces in general, do you prefer to pre-treat them yourself or buy them treated?
Okay. It really depends on what it's for. Super, super duper depends on what it's for. I get a very dark black here. So if I'm just doing a study or, I'm working with students, then I say you get the pre-created, more economic surfaces because you're practicing. You don't want something that makes you miserable and it refuses to take paint, because a surface's basic job is to take paint, whether that's paper or canvas or board, it's supposed to take paint. So at the minimum, it must do that. But once you get there, it's okay to have some economy choices. If I'm doing artwork with a real specific purpose in mind, I will either refinish the surface. Like if I was doing a portrait, I might still take like another brand of canvas or surface and gesso and sand and gesso and sand. With an ampersand, I don't touch their prep because there is nothing better I can do than their prep. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like they're the pinnacle of surface prep. So I wouldn't touch that. It wouldn't improve it. It could only make it worse. On other surfaces, I might hand improve it if it was going to a different, if I was doing it for a particular reason. And if I'm just kind of doing things, I don't mind buying the economy packs, which is why you see me do all those different things in my studio.
Now, there was just some interesting questions about some differences about how actually some interest. This is not fan art because you have a license, right?
Right. No, I'm not doing fan art.
Okay, so I'm just going to cut to it.
This isn't fan art. This is, I have permission. If you paint a photograph you find on the internet, you need permission, the rights to paint it from the photographer.
Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that some people
and this is not Pixabay.
Right. Now,
but you could do something from Pixabay, but then your rights are very limited.
Now, some people who do fan art get rights.
That's right.
So it's not a clean-cut answer one way or another.
Whether somebody has legally obtained the license or not, or the rights to do an image from somebody else's image, you would never know that.
Right. You have to. That's a legal question that you'd have to get personal about.
That's a legal question that you need to do some legal thinking about.
So, but
and don't be kidding yourself that it's anything other than that. It's a super legal question.
But yeah, this is we license this image, and it's not a fan art. It's sort of a licensed derivative work.
Yeah. Which I have the rights to, and then the rights to the painting. Correct. So it would be more like if I did paint my photo, like I would have rights to the painting. And actually, the image that I've created here, and the changes within that image.
And we actually have more rights because we commercially purchase the rights to use these. So,
which protects my rights.
Right. So, but you guys don't necessarily need that for stuff you do at home.
Yeah, no, mine extend to yours because I get this so I can teach this.
Right.
I've just added a bunch of white to my paint and my blue, just in case you guys missed that because we get to talking.
That's like some inside baseball there.
It is some inside baseball, but it's okay to know. What's not okay is to panic about it. Don't panic about it, guys. Notice I'm just pulling this stroke down. I'm just loosely pulling that stroke down to show that shadow there. That highlight. So, yeah, it is inside baseball. It's not something you should feel like a necessity to be stressed about or super worried about, but you should be aware of it. Like Pinterest, you're not supposed to go on Pinterest and then just paint whatever you see there. Now,
sell it.
And well, I mean, in all technicality, if I'm giving actual advice, you're not supposed to.
Oh, well, I guess that's true, but that's
however,
it's not
personal use
for your own.
No one is also supposed to break into your home and see what you're painting. So.
So I think as long as you keep it to that personal use category of like, you're not licensing, making T-shirts, giving it to somebody else, doing something with it.
Yeah.
You're probably
not going to see a lot of difficulty in that area. It's when you take it outside of that concept. And I don't do any art policing in my Facebook group because that's not my job on earth and we don't allow it. And honestly, students need to copy. to learn, and I think it's very important. And I think that sometimes you see a piece and you want to practice it. Students are taken in art school to the museum to practice the paintings that they see there. Understand, like if you go on an app like Art Authority, all those old historic paintings, those are in the public domain, and are you can paint those and sell them. You just have to pretend to not be Van Gogh. Don't pretend to be Van Gogh.
Right.
That's a big crime.
And as
Don't do that. They'll come for you even if you're a beginner.
And as they're asking here in chat, if you want to use this for your own commercial, for our lesson here and this painting that we've done,
Yeah.
you can go over to our licensing and business support group, Labs, and check that out over there.
Yeah.
And we have a whole group for that.
But I don't really care if you sell it to friends or family.
No, that's not what you.
I am taking a little white and a little black and a little blue and mixing it in here, creating a lighter value. Don't want to lose the lesson in all of this. And I'm putting these strokes over here on the far left side of the suit, creating this light value. Isn't that nice?
Yeah.
I'm going to come and get another little highlight value. But these are good questions.
Well, the difference between fan art comes up a lot.
Well, fan art, to be more accurate, guys, is when there's a large commercial property like Disney, right? And it's become part of our culture. Hello Kitty, Mickey Mouse, the girls from Frozen, everything from Moana, all comics everywhere across all time. Star Trek, Doctor Who, these are large commercial properties for which there are massive fan bodies. I'm adding highlights here and here and here. But those, they're very dark. They're almost the shade of this dark paint right here. And so when we paint those, that belongs to Disney. When I paint Mickey, that belongs to Disney. Even if I paint Mickey in my style, if it's recognizable as Mickey, it belongs to Disney. I don't change 3 things or 30%. That is, I don't know, a weird internet rumor that got started that has nothing to do with anything your lawyer will ever tell you. And I have a whole video on copyright where we talk about this. It's not legal advice. It's just a lot of experience and listening to a lot of lawyers explain a lot of stuff to me. I do fan art. Like when I will do it. And like I've said before, if someone were to write me and say, you don't have my permission, I'll take the video down. Because it's not mine.
We won't. I know you will soapbox as much as I will. So.
You got me soapboxing.
I did.
You got me super soapboxing.
It's like me going out and, going squatching.
You got me super soapboxing because you were on fan art. So I was like, okay, let's do fan art. If we're going to give advice, then we've got to give it.
It's true.
You've got to explain it. Otherwise, people panic. And I don't want you panicking about this stuff. For the most part, no one's going to come into your home. Knock on wood.
Not that we're aware of.
What you're doing with your copyright. And honestly, that would probably be a national news story if they did. Be a very interesting thing. And there's a lot about use. But when you're painting along with me, you can paint this. You can hang it in your house. You can give it to your friends. I don't mind if you sell it to your friends and family and all. There's a whole use policy in the description below, and you just follow that and you're fine. So I'm mixing the blue and the black. And it's just a little bit lighter, as you can see, than the lapels. So they're just a slightly different value in the way that they're standing out from each other. Oh, you can't see that on the camera at all, can you?
Yeah. Yes, you can.
All right. Now I'm going to put the black right here.
You can see the subtle differences in those. It's just hard with the bright lights in your studio to see it on your monitor.
Oh, okay.
It is very subtle, though.
It should be subtle. What you're going for is subtle.
It's very subtle. You can definitely see it on the left lapel very strongly. And as you're blending it in on the right, adding those background layers, you can see it starting to pop out.
Now, I am going to take a little bit of white onto my brush before this blue dries and come up along here. And I'm going to add this line, which is going to help it pop out from its background a little bit
Oh
and
yeah,
be visible.
very much so.
And then I'm going to come down and do this, and I'll come up here on the inside there. And again, I'm going to make that line there. See how I'm showing that crease? I'm going to make this line here to sort of show that crease. You can go ahead and make a highlight there. Let's brush stroke a highlight right here. Kind of coming down, just to show that it's there, that something's happening, that the suit has form, if that makes sense. I'm going to get a little of my blue paint. I'm going to put out a little more of my black paint. This particular black is my favorite black. The Holbein Acrylic Mars Black is my favorite black. Of all the blacks that are made out there, it's my very favorite black that I have used. They're all Mars Black, but I think this is the best one. It's my favorite. That means nothing, but just my opinion.
It's just funny.
I've used a lot of paint, though, so it might be a good opinion. It might be useful information. I'm adding this dark value between the shoulder and the main body of the suit. I'm going to come here. Just make sure that we're starting to pull these dark values over that. So the blue and the black, right?
Yep.
Now here's an interesting thing we're going to do. We're going to do a little black into our blue for a tie. Taking this down right there. Make sure that that's also all painted right up to that little line. How are we doing, guys?
Really good. I was worried that we were gonna lose some people during our soapboxing.
Okay.
Nope. They were loving it. They were
really?
like, nope,
okay.
we just get to keep the Sherpa longer. You can keep her soapboxing. Don't stop her. I'm like, all right, we can just let the
I'm
Sherpa.
not blamed for this soap. You totally full on started the soapbox.
Oh, I did.
I don't even know how I'm even blamed for that soapbox.
I Sherpa baited you.
You did.
It was like I lured you out with a question of intellectual property.
It's a big thing. And again, I hate when students get really panicked about it because it's something to think about. It's something to be aware of, but it's not something to like yell at anybody over or call them an art thief or be crazy on them. Please don't ever do that. Leave all responses like that to your attorney. Don't go attacking people on the internet. It's not nice.
Yeah.
I'm going to add my next layer to my shirt. So I'm going to get my white here and I'm going to add a smidge of my black. A little bit. Oh, that's too much. There we go. And I'm going to just make sure that I've got this little collar happening.
No ring around his collar.
None.
Those whites.
Cheeky people can do lipstick kisses on the collar. There's always one.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
There's always one that's like, lipstick kisses on the collar. Because they like to tell a story. And it's okay to be cheeky. Don't you be ashamed of that. You be cheeky.
You put a lapel pin on him.
You could put a lapel pin on him.
You can make all sorts
of
statements.
You could put a enameled Disney Mickey pin, like he's been to Disney and he was pin trading.
You could change his half Windsor to a full Windsor or a bow tie.
You totally could. You totally could. I'm going to add a little more of the white of the shirt right here.
Oh, Lynn would definitely like to see more of the crazy cool paintings like the smoking guy you did where you took the colors and shifted them.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, there's a couple people were asking about that.
They're so fun to do and there will be more.
Yeah, they really
actually there's going to be a bunch of florals in that style.
Oh yeah, that's right. I remember talking
if that's
about that.
Okay. Is it okay, guys? You got to tell me.
We don't want any florals.
I want their answers. Is it okay if we do a bunch of abstracted florals in that style?
I think I feel a premonition coming of yes,
Yeah, but you
but
want to get the confirmation of it,
I'll
right?
wait. I'll wait. I'll confirm.
So now we put the shadow under his collar and he's starting to really pop, isn't he? So let's add a little highlight to his tie. So first I'm going to get my blue, and I'm going to
Can't
come
forget
right
the
here
bolos.
across the top in this little arc where it's tied. And then also I'm going to kind of arc it right here down the center, just the blue. Just the blue. Is everything okay on focus?
Yeah, it was just wandered off on me, and I had to pull the focus back in a little.
I'm just doing the blue. I'm going to come back and get a little of my black. And I'm going to come right here and pull it in. See what I'm doing? Definitely down into this crease down here where it would be dark.
Definitely florals. Yes, they think florals would be good.
Yeah, they've been real fun and I've been really into them. And they've been very, very, very friendly. And I think every time we can do a friendly painting. A black, I'm just doing the shadow on this side. Now once I have that shadow and my blue sort of worked out there, so I've got the basis of the tie. I'm going to take a little of my phthalo blue out and some of my white. And I'm going to lighten it a smidge. Not into a light sky blue, but light enough to catch this highlight. I'm going to do a dash right here. We have a highlight now in our tie. And there's our tie blue. Yes, now our tie is blue. Now our tie is blue. I'm going to rinse this brush out so thoroughly. But there's no pigment in it.
But not in your coffee.
Not in my coffee. That was close too. And I'm going to add a little highlight right here to the back of the collar.
Layers. This is about the many layers.
Yeah, this whole painting, the layers. But is this ombre not beautiful?
Yeah, it is. So, and that similarly, as long as you follow the layer process, it may take a little longer, but you're going to get the result.
And that's what's really important, right? Is our result. And let's again add a little bit of a highlight to the corner of this shirt right here. Right, look at that. And then we pop away, it just suddenly looks like a very well-considered shirt, doesn't it?
It does.
Uh-oh, I got some blue in there.
Got some blue in there.
We don't want it. We don't want it.
We can't have no blue collar
erase it out. No.
Well, it actually is kind of some hues of blue all over.
Yeah, we did work some blue in there, but I want to be in control of when the blue comes and gives me any grief.
True.
Gonna white the back of the collar. Along the back. Gonna come down the front.
And there are many, many voices agreeing that florals will be nice.
Oh, look at that nice shirt. Isn't that beautiful? Like when the jacket happens, it's just gorgeous.
It just looks real sharp.
It just does. And it's beautiful and it's happy and it's still painterly because we're not trying to make a photograph.
No, not at all.
And that's the other important thing when you're working from photographic references. To remember you're not trying to make a photograph or trying to make a painting. It's just helping you with lighting and elements like that. All right. So now I'm going to take my black and blue together. Very, very dark. Black and blue. And let's paint in our hat. Just the whole hat at first.
I love how the jacket has those down at the bottom, the roughed end edges.
Yeah.
That particular bit of, it makes it seem more surreal.
It does, doesn't it? And I don't like to hide always that I'm doing a painting from the viewer. I like to show that I'm painting. And sometimes leaving a brush stroke in really conveys, you don't want to hide. When someone refers to artwork being tight or sock folding or all of that, what they're really saying is that the person is hiding the construction method. Right? But when you're painting loose and painterly, you're showing it. You're saying, this is what I made this from. Either one is right or wrong. They're just different sensibilities in an aesthetic. Both equally valuable and worthwhile. They just have different goals. I continue to paint this in. And even this starts to show the hat, just like how I'm doing the brush directionality. Helps to start to talk about the hat a little bit. And who doesn't want to talk about Mr. Nice Hat? It's just one of those lovely paintings that you can do on a Wednesday?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Just a wonderful Wednesday afternoon painting with all of our friends. Yeah.
I'm just cleaning up my edges on this, so I'm going to go get some water. And see how that improves the fluidity of my brush? Water. Very good tool in acrylic paint.
This is awesome.
I'm so glad. This is when I probably will do a painting like this. There's one I want to do where it's all the clouds and birds in the face too. I like that too a lot.
Oh yeah, that one's kind of cool.
But I might like be more interesting with the suit in some way. And have a little more personality, maybe like a little tweed, or I'm not sure. I haven't really found that whole thought process in my head, but I know where I'm going. All right. Once that base form is in, then I can come and get a little of the white onto my brush. I'm going to make kind of a next shade up from that dark gray. And there's a couple places I can put the dark gray. I can come back here and make a nice thin line of that slightly darker gray. I'm going to start to work my smile in. And you guys have this in your traceable, so don't panic. All right? Just make sure I've got a little kind of highlight there. Now, I'm going to make this sort of more bluish kind of color. I will show that there. And I'm going to come across the hat straight across. This is a lot, by the way. You guys ask me a lot, how do I paint a black dog or black cat?
Oh
Similar stuff is going on. Seriously, seriously, similar stuff. Now I'm going to come right here and I'm going to make a bit of a highlight into the black of the hat. Not a big one. This is almost just one shade lighter. And then I'll get just the smidgiest smidge of white coming into that. And I mean, it's like I've got to like proceed so carefully. And I'll even add just a little more focus right there. So can you guys see that little focus into the hat? And now the hat's starting to take some shape. Well, I've still got this highlight. I'm going to come here from the brim and pull that one forward. Let's get just a little more white into it. Just a little more, maybe some blue. It's still pretty dark. Let's come right here and pull that forward. And right here in the middle, make sure we've got a nice little reflection starting to form in line with what's going on there. I also can get a little more white on here, a little bit. And I can come into the inside of the hat right here. I'm going to wipe off my brush along the inside little lip, just softly feathering that out. And now I'll even maybe get some glaze. I'll blend that just a smidge. If I need to come back and add the dark, I will. Sometimes it's easier to trim back. I'm going to get into my white. I haven't rinsed my brush, so it'll be a little bit dirty. If I need to push that forward, I will. Trim it down. Maybe make a little highlight right there. And even a slightly brighter one here. There we did. Now, I'm going to get my black, black, black. So black, black, black. Come here and swing that brush around. You see how I did that? I'm wiping off because I had a little boo-boo. I'll come clean it up a bit. Just rinsed out my brush and I'm just cleaning this up just a smidge. Let's look at that from a distance. Oh look, we have a hat and it's got an inside and has an outside and we're getting there. I'm going to come back into my black. I'm going to make sure that I've got a nice edge to the buller right here. We could put an apple right there and we'll have done a famous painting. Just enjoy the curve. Now, a lot of this, guys, I won't even lie to you. The brush goes a long way. It does a lot. This number 6, Ruby Satin, got a beautiful edge. It's got a lot of spring. It's giving me a lot of control. Don't get, if you're not having trouble getting these lines, don't just assume that it's you. Don't go with that first. It could literally be, I'm getting just black paint, that your brush is not functioning as it should. So you may need to change the style of brush you're using. You may need to change the brush company, the pressure, the paint. There's a lot that could be going on. But don't start with yourself as the primary reason things are struggling. It's generally not where it comes from. I'm going to add a little bit of a some dark value could be happening there. And once I have that, and we're literally nearly done, shockingly so, I'm going to get a little bit of my white out. It's got some of this blue in it, but it's quite light and compared to the rest of everything else in the hat. Will be very light. Pulling one over there. See how that's looking? Yep. I'm going to rinse out my brush thoroughly. Hopefully we've learned a couple things today.
Well, you know what I learned? If I do a portrait in Halloween, I don't have to learn how to do skin tones.
You know what? You don't. How do we like that, though?
I think it's awesome.
I think that's actually a really pretty painting. I'm really glad we did it. And I think it's something we could explore further. I think there's something really fun about this idea of this invisible man and what he's got going on and what he's doing. I'm going to get my brush. This is a number 1 monogram liner. It's just a detail brush, and it gives me very nice fine lines. I'm going to load up a light color on there. I'm going to come over here, and I'm going to just sign my name. I'm doing it in a way where I'm considering how the signature might impact the painting. So I try not to pick colors that would pull attention or take away from the composition. I need people to know that I made it, but I don't need to be like all about it. You guys proud of yourselves?
Oh, this is great.
So hopefully your takeaway from this is to recognize that sometimes techniques and things that you see online take longer than they might initially appear, and to give yourself a little bit of a break. Recognize practice goes a long way, or maybe there's a little bit more information you don't have yet. Don't just discount yourself. Just go put a pin in it and see where it's at. How fun it is to paint with values. These are 3 colors, but it looks like there's a lot more happening there, doesn't it? It's like,
yeah.
And you can see why I chose to be brighter with the blue and brighter with stuff. I think it adds a lot to this as a painting by saturating and taking things up a notch. So remember that the references that you use, you should get permission. And also that you can alter them. They're just there as a guideline. You're not supposed to like be so married to that reference that you can't do the things you need to do artistically. If you're looking for a good place to get photographs, Paint My Photo is an excellent resource for artists looking for photographs to paint where you would get permission. It's one of my favorites. And I think even better than maybe Pixabay or Upsplash. I think it's just a wonderful website. Yay to all the people over at Paint My Photo. I want you guys to be good to yourselves. Be good to each other. I want to see you at the easel really soon because tomorrow we got to paint the mummy. All right, bye-bye.